Hello, I present myself. I am Carlos Llorenç, Secretary General of Orufogar, the United Regions Organization. In his speeches of 2020, during the pandemic, our president, the president of Orufogar, Mr. Abdesamat Sekal, invites the members of Orufogar, of our organization, the regions, to think, to talk, and to write about the governance post-COVID-19, to think, to talk, and to write about the future of the regions. Nowadays, it's impossible to talk about it in our assemblies, in our executive bureaus, in our forums, in our meetings, because all of us are at home. For us, it's impossible to travel like 2 years ago. This initiative, the Positive Conversation, is in the sense a virtual contribution of this debate proposed for our president, Abdesamat Sekal. In the last month, we had different conversations, positive conversations in French with our members of Africa or Europe. In the next weeks, we will have conversations with members of Latin America in Spanish. But today, we have the opportunity to open the window to the north of Europe. It's a pleasure to have today with us Madame Ann-Sofi Backgren, Vice President of the Association of European Border Regions from Finland, from the region of Ostrobothnia, and Mr. Jean-Luc Vanraes, Vice President of the Assembly of the European Regions from Brussels capital. It's the opportunity to know what happened during the pandemic in the regions in Finland and in Belgium, and in any case to know the vision of them in relation about this debate. This conversation will be recorded and it will be found in our YouTube page and in our website. At the same time, I must to say that we will report all the conclusion of these conversations in English, French, and Spanish, and we will present it during our assembly of this year. And well, the idea is to have a free conversation of only half an hour or a little more, to talk about the future of the regions after the pandemic. And in this point, I must to give the floor to our partners, to give the floor to you. I don't know if perhaps ladies first. Ann-Sofi, you start.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for your kind invitation. And many regards from the western part of Finland and from maritime border regions between Finland and Sweden. And as you said, my home region is Ostrobothnia. That is a bilingual region, so Finnish and Swedish are the main languages in our region. Outside my window at the moment is snowstorm, so I just, for your information, have to say that if anything happens, so you know that the weather is confusing me a little bit at the moment. But to say something in the beginning, so we can start this conversation, I think there was one life before the COVID-19, and it will be another life of post-COVID-19. And I think it has been really a time when people have started to rethink. And now also we have to restart again when we can perhaps return some part back, but I don't think we will return fully back as we lived like before the COVID-19. And this new time, if I say with the new agenda also, I think we have many possibilities in the regions. because now, as I said, we have really to think over again what we have done before, how we have functioned, how we have worked, how we have tried to work with development. And now when we have seen the crisis suddenly blowing up, we have to rethink many things again. And then we also have to create new way of working with the development. And that means also, as I think, a kind of new governance in the end. So I would start and end this information in the beginning to say that I think we have to develop a kind of new type of place-based policy. Former time, it was very national oriented policy, but now when we see what a pandemic can make to us, it's more or less necessary to think more place-based. And that means also that we have to create a more place-based policy for the regions and the local societies.
Well, Mr. Vanraes.
Well, if I may maybe react to that, I'm pretty sure and agree fully that actually this pandemic is a test case for our subsidiarity questions and our competences. And now we know that throughout Europe, the competences are quite different. For example, if you live in Brussels, I'm sure the competences are not the same as in the other regions in Europe. We live in a country, as some may know, where the regions, we have 3 regions that have many competences. And we see now that the competences, especially those for healthcare, are not well distributed. Part of the healthcare is still in hands of the federal state, and a big part of the healthcare is in the hand of the regions. And what we see now, and I'm speaking about Belgium, is that we should think about discussing about packages of competences and not divided competences. So if you speak, for example, about healthcare, I think it's very difficult to give one part of the healthcare to the central state and the other part to the regions, because this means that you need a permanent negotiation between the central state and the regions. And we have there, I think, a need to, in the future, to have a real discussion about these packages. Another thing I'm seeing is that we so know, and I'm thinking about the negotiation about the vaccines, that the existence of Europe is something very important. And the fact that we can come together to buy a product within Europe, we are much stronger in negotiations. So I think what's happening now is we have a real test of the subsidiarity question, and we will have to think about transfer of competences or to the regions, but also maybe to a higher authority, and I'm thinking on the European Union authorities.
Yes, and if I go on, I think also that before the COVID-19, many people in the regions really didn't talk so much about risk management, if I say so. And that is something now clearly has erased in this pandemic time. So I think we have also, it's time to create new type of competencies also in perhaps new thematic issues like risk management, and also I'm coming from a cross-border region, so many policies are vertical, so to say, but in a cross-border context we also have to think horizontal, and then you can unify the best of the parts of the, for example, risk management from both parts of the border, and that's something I think we have to create new types of policies in a cross-border context, especially also when we are talking about risk management, because that is something that I think has not really been thinking about. Perhaps it has been some parts, but not really like this type of pandemic. So in many cases, we have to learn many new things and also to create many new packages, as I said, and also especially when we're talking about you said about the social health care. That's also something that can be, you can have a good health care in one part of the border, perhaps not in the other part of the border, because you are perhaps sparsely populated and some or mountains or whatever, or maritime border region. So you have to take the best out of the borders, and also the best out of the cooperation between the regions. The best knowledge perhaps is not anymore in the capitals. You also have a lot of common knowledge in the regions, and it's to create a new package and take the best out of the regional knowledge, if I say so.
Yeah, maybe we should look. Europe is not one equal entity. I'm living in a country where we have many inhabitants on a very small surface. You're living in a very country, big, and there you thinking about healthcare is maybe
Mr. Vanraes, we have some problems.
that
It's difficult to listen to you.
Ordering the Is there happening?
No. Yes. No.
Okay.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, I think we have to acknowledge that a diversified approach, due many times to climatic or geographical issues, has to be found. And the problem of the cooperation between the border regions is, of course, a very essential one. And there, I think there is still a lot to do on the side of European Union too, if we speak about the service packages and all those things, because for the moment, which make possible those trans-border work cooperation. So there's a big issue. Therefore, we saw a huge amount of flexibility within the sector. I'm thinking about the hospitals. I'm also running a hospital, so there was a huge amount of flexibility. And at the beginning, at least, not further on, the flexibility was not present, I think, in the central organized states. So therefore, I think the existence of regions with more competences is really important.
Yes, I lost some parts of your speech, but as you said, I think the flexibility is more or less necessary, and that is something that we really can come up with in the regions, because we have better chance to really to be flexible, and also to create a more or less some special efforts to deal with some of our issues that are, as I said in the beginning, very place-based. So because then you can look at the region, and you can also look at what you have around in the region, and what are the competences in the region, and how can we deal with our challenges, for example. And I think also these times, perhaps also when looking at the election in US and such thing, the talk and about democracy and how to involve citizens, but also to deal with really democracy, how important it is. And I think that is something that also is perhaps getting to be stronger in the mindsets of many people in this COVID time, how important it really is to can have a possibility to take part in the creation of the restart of the society after this COVID-19, because I think people really want to take perhaps part or to be a part of this new normal, if I say so, because I don't really think that there is a return back, and what is really the normal. We don't know it yet, because we are still in the pandemic situation, but we can really see some perhaps trends already. And one part is that I think as I'm sitting in my kitchen now and have been doing remotely work for or more or less in March. I returned back in August after my summer vacation, but then quite back again. So I have been working remotely more or less soon for a year, and that is something also that has really changed my way of working. And now also we are not coming together in a seminar somewhere in Europe. You are sitting in Brussels and I'm sitting here in Finland, and we have also we are more or less used to use Teams and Zoom and such type of instruments for our work now. So I think the whole working life and also how we are going to cooperate in meetings and such things really will be or will look in another way that it was before. And for example, traveling will not perhaps be such as it was before also, and that this everything makes input also to how we will develop our regions in the future. We have to also to rethink what will be a more sustainable way of living. What are really perhaps are we going to develop more local food, more going back to the nature, using more nature in our life and such things. So my conclusion is that I really think that the values of people has turned a little bit around, and then this also gives us the new possibility to really develop the regions in a more sustainable way that perhaps we had before.
Yeah, I have a mixed feelings about what's happening when we have less close relationships because when you have meetings through Teams and all those things, it's of course we can discuss about a certain number of things, but we all know that many decisions are prepared in talks around the real discussion. And it's very difficult to have those meetings now, to prepare those meetings in order to find the full agreement. So I think we will some way we will have to find back a solution in order to have personal contact between people. So I think this is really necessary. On the other hand, we now see that many of the time we spend in airplanes and so on and so on for really simple things, we can avoid all this time lost. So I think we should be and we will be more practical about those things. So that's very important. The third thing is that social media are very important and very dangerous. I'm making a report now at the Committee of Regions according to the fundamental rights, and we saw what happened in the States and the role of social media within it. And so we will have to find some new tools in order to make sure that those fundamental rights are respected, and also to make sure that the population is more critical to what she reads, because until 15-20 years ago, it was quite simple to have a debate. You read the newspapers. There were some ethical rules and legal rules according to the newspapers. We knew the political view of the newspapers and so on and so on. So it was easier to be critical. Now we have those social websites who can deliver whatever opinion, and there is no fact checking about this. So that's dangerous. Moreover, we lose really a huge part of the public, of people who are still not connected through internet. So I'm especially thinking about the elderly people and so on and so on. So it's very dangerous, I think, to lose this contact for our democratic thinking and our democratic process. So that's another thing we learned from the corona epidemic. We should be grateful that this media exists, but on the other hand, we should also not forget that this is quite dangerous. So so I think we are rethinking, actually, with this corona issue. We have to rethink our democracies, our subsidiarity opportunities. I would call it opportunities and challenges. And you are right. Maybe we will act more local in our eating, in our living, and so on and so on. And this is quite important, because if we want to have our small businesses to live again, we need that. So I think corona is something very special. And as maybe beginning of the last century, this flu virus was something essential, and it changed the way of living drastically in the following years. So I think we should be prepared to that, and I think that the discussions we will have now in the next months and years post-COVID will be different than those we had before, because our institutions, they were submitted to real test this year 2020, and it's up to us to take the real to find the real solutions to the negative replies to that test. So and for me, I think it will be in a better organized meeting scheme, thinking maybe more local, but on the other hand, having in mind that sometimes it's better that have to have transnational organization for the big issues, because there we are stronger.
Yes, I really agree when you are talking about these fundamental rights and this importance of the critical mass and to avoid fake news. That is really something that we have to learn now, at how we will deal with this in the future, and how we can also create methods that really the things that when we are trying to involve people, that they really get the right, so to say, the right facts and not fake facts. So but I think also it's important to involve people more in the decision making, also perhaps participatory democracy and such things. But I think also it's as I said, you are living in Brussels and I live in the I know it's not sparsely populated, but quite anyway. Comparing with Brussels, it's very sparsely populated. But I live close to the sea and in a smaller village. And in my opinion, I think at the moment my life is quite well, if I say so. Under this pandemic time, I have felt the freedom of living in a countryside. When I have a own house, I can go out in my garden and also have space, if I say so. And that is something that I haven't really thought about earlier, how important it is to feel the freedom, also to have space. So before COVID-19, I should say, in many perhaps development policies, we talk about this density standard. It was a lot of density standard. It has to be enough people for such type of services and such things. But perhaps this density standard is something that we have to rethink after this COVID-19, because now it has been better if you have it not living so close to each other. It is better if we have pandemic like this. So then you are on the lucky side if you have more space. So even some formal standards perhaps now is getting in the pipeline of rethinking we have to, let's see what will come out, perhaps more high hybrid models or such thing. I don't think we, as I said, we will not return totally back, but we will not, as you said, I think also it's really important that we can meet physically, not only in Zoom and Teams, but perhaps more hybrid models we will create, and we will not travel, as I said, sitting in airplanes, and a lot of time we will spend in airplanes. That is something perhaps we will have less in the future. But I think more hybrid models, but also perhaps the combination of a kind of local and global life to take out the best of it. Because I live really local, but together with you today, I'm living global also, because this digitalization has given me the possibility also to live global from my kitchen in a smaller village. So this is also something that I'm thinking in a positive way, to live both local and global. So perhaps more people also want to live in this type of combination, and that will perhaps give some opportunities for the regions and the local societies.
Yeah, I agree with you. So even in living in the city, your connection with the outside world is bigger. You know, the people in Brussels are walking a lot more than they did before. They go to the parks, to the woods, and so on and so on. So the way of living has changed. That's true, and that's a good thing. But I think, on the other hand, that you know, you're living in a certain type of geographical situation, and others have to be aware about the fact that the situation where you live is different than theirs, and vice versa. And then I think meeting each other is still very important, because when we think about ruling policies, of course, you want to have the best efficiency of the public money you put in certain services. So and until now, as you said, this was a bit the approach, saying, well, you live in a rural country and countryside, and you want the same services as in the city. The cost of it is higher. Most of the time, it's the way it is, and this is no criticism about this. That's just a fact. So then the question is, how do we organize this? I'm thinking, for example, about medical help. So in a big city, it's very easy to have, not so far away, a medical help. When you live outside and more isolated, it's very difficult. And there, it's the real thinking about, yeah, but how should we organize it? Shall we buy helicopters to transfer people, or I think this is something which is made maybe more urgent now by this pandemic. And I know in the Nordic countries you were pretty well organized with those kind of challenges before already, because you were used to that kind of. You use more broadband and so on and so on. So this is very. Very exciting for us to see that. But now what's new is that, of course, you have this pandemic, and I think all people have the right to have the same help. And now the big question is, how do we organize this? And I think, therefore, we can have this general this discussion here now, but to see really what the problem is where you live, I have to come over and to see what's happening. And you too, you have to come over to my city to see what's happening there, because I have totally different problems than you have. And we need mutual understanding in order to agree on a policy. And that's maybe a bit what I'm afraid of, which is not existing when you don't go to the other place. So as it was said in the speech yesterday of Biden, I would like to be in your shoes sometime to understand you better. So I think this is very important. Going places is still very important in order to understand each other needs better. And now coming back to the subsidiarity question, it is really a fact that we should do more benchmarking, look other people do, exchange experiences, and so on and so on. And this is really something which lacks, I think, for the moment, because we don't have this direct contact.
Yes, yes, yes. The networking, now we have to deal with the networking online only, and that is of course a little bit problematic in these times. But as you said, I think also it's really important this type of exchange with methods and also to see the circumstances where different people lives. And when I'm thinking about AEBR, when we have had our extra committee meetings in the former time, if I say so, before the post-COVID, we always had meetings in border regions, and that was also it was 2 in 1, if I say it so, because we had, of course, the meetings, but we also at the same time we could learn more about different regions and cross-border regions in Europe, and that was all it was like a learning session also at the same time, and that's, I think it's really important to see each other's daily life also in the regions, because they are different, and you have different challenges, but you have also different possibilities to develop things, and then you can find also partners to connect to, and also to try to develop things together and find new ways and methods to and for example projects to really go to concrete. So networking and working together regions is, and learning from each other, is also something that I really encourage.
Well, it's time. You talked about very interesting things. You talked about rethink a lot of things, subsidiarity, democracy, models, etc. You talked about to live global and local. We know Ann-Sofi is living in a wonderful place and house, and etc. But now we need your conclusions and your final message.
My final message is perhaps that I think it's time really to focus on place-based policy. Regions are different, and you can't anymore paint with the same brush or color and have a kind of natural policy only. You really also have to create this place-based policy and also to rethink and also to restart the development after this COVID-19.
Yes.
Yes, my view is goes a bit the same way, but is maybe the message is a bit different. I think we should continue the subsidiarity debate in Europe, transferring competences to regions, but also to the European Union where possible and where necessary, and really discuss not challenges or competences, so that everybody's responsible.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your contribution. As I said in the start of the session, this video will be in our YouTube page, in our website, and at the same time, I am sure the ideas of this conversation will be a very important part of our report to present in our assembly with the participation of regions around the world. Thank you very much. Rethink, restart. Thank you very much.